Hello and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Tonight we are joined by the author of Death Quest, Jay Palmer. Welcome, Jay, to the room.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I am going to turn my speakers up so I can get you a little louder here. All right, there. Now, get you a little louder on the speaker. Okay, so as usual, I like to do a little bit of research the day before. Okay, that didn't work right. Hold on a sec. Tried to start my timer, and now it's not working. Oh, no. There we go. I think we got it. Hold on. Okay, I think it's going to count down. You can tell that this is a new toy. Okay, it's counting down. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. I used to just do it with my phone, but it's just a little easier, and I like for it to show on the camera when it's up there. So anyway, so like I said, I do a little bit of research on all the authors. I like to do it the day before so that I'm just as, fresh with your knowledge as I can be at the things that I can find on you. So what I want to start off by talking about is, I believe it's the SCA, Society of Creative
Society for Creative Anachronism.
Okay, all right, cool. And I hear that you are a knight. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how that came about?
Well, let's see. I put on 60 pounds of armor and went out and beat the crap out of people until they made me a knight. It's pretty straight. A lot of the Renaissance fairs that happen all over the country,
yes,
they're the ones that put it on. They
nice.
Can walk into a village or into a park, state park in the middle of nowhere and turn it into a medieval village in a couple of hours.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun. It's not going, because of COVID, obviously, it's not going so great right now, but nothing is.
No.
And I have chainmail and we used rattan swords. That's like a very solid bamboo, because if you're fighting with oak swords and it snaps, you get a sharp point. Bamboo swords will eventually pulverize into a powder and you just have to replace them.
Oh, wow.
It's like getting hit with a small baseball bat.
Okay, my first question for that is, how much do you feel through the armor?
You feel a considerable amount, but there you're fighting against other people one-on-one. It's a very different type of scenario versus when you're doing a war combat, and we do have those. But it takes about 6 months for your body to acclimate to any new sport, whether you do swimming or mountain climbing or whatever you're doing. And it takes a while for your body to get used to taking that kind of punishment. But
go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
6'3", and I kind of had to stop that after a car accident. But I really enjoyed going out and doing competition martial arts in full suits of armor.
You're saying you did martial arts in a whole set of armor?
Yeah, we wore full suits of armor and fought with no holds barred.
Oh, wow.
If you want to go to sca.org, you could look at their websites and see all kinds, Google Society for Creative Anachronism or just SCA fighting. You'll see thousands of videos out there.
Right. So, now, since we're talking about you being knighted in the SCA, how would you say being a knight has helped your writing process?
Well, it helped immensely when I'm writing fighting or sword work, because I know so much more than most people do about what it is to be wearing a suit of armor, what you can do, what you can't do, how long you can keep going. I mean, now I'm a huge Tolkien fan, probably none better, and I don't want to criticize, but I would not have Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli running, 14 days across the fields of Rohan in full armor with almost no supplies. It's just normal people cannot do this.
I have watched that movie several times, though, so I get the gist of that.
Yes.
So,
And I'll
go ahead.
learning how to a lot of my books. I have the new person who wants to learn how to do sword work and an expert teaching them, and it goes into great detail about you know how you have to you're basically moving your body and how it differs for what weapon you're carrying or where you're fighting. If you're fighting in a tunnel or you're fighting inside a castle, different strategies apply. So and this is how that helped my fighting.
Well, I think that would be very interesting. I think having an intimate knowledge of how to hold the sword and proper whatever particular martial art you're using on the field would be very handy in writing a fight scene. So you would actually know how to place things and move things. So I could see where that would be very helpful. Um,
And
so
how people
go
like
ahead.
I where they're targeting, all sorts of little things like that you don't think about until you've actually done it.
Right. So let's talk Vikings. Tell us
Okay.
about the trilogy and how it started for you. I mean, since we're talking about your writing, let's go right into the trilogy.
Okay. My first trilogy, the Vikings trilogy, actually started decades ago, and the concept. I always try to look for something that other authors really haven't covered that much. And in the Vikings trilogy, the big question was if you really believed in order to die and go to Valhalla, didn't matter whether you were good, didn't matter if you were bad, didn't matter if you were a liar or a cheat or whatever. What mattered is you had to die gloriously with a sword in your hand. You really wouldn't leave your death to chance. You would plan your death. This is your only chance to go. And if you walk off the battlefield and then get sick and die in a bed, you don't get to go there. So the idea that you have to die gloriously fighting, my main character, he's really nice guy. He's been the personal champion of the King of Norway for most of his life, but he's turning 45 and his fighting skills are starting to go downhill. So he wants to go to Valhalla now while he's still in his fighting prime. So he's out doing every trick he can to try to get people to want to kill him, and his Christian companions are just trying not to get killed.
That's a lot. I mean, it's really interesting because nowadays we look at what the new 50 as the 50 as the new 30, or maybe I'm projecting that since 50 is around the corner for me. So hearing a character at 45 thinking that basically their life is over, I mean that is it's whole other atmosphere to take in. It's a whole other lifetime ago. Do you find it hard to write from a history place like that back in the history to in that time?
No, because I do all the research I possibly can. I can virtually quote the Prose Edda, the Eldar Edda. I've worked on real Viking ships, rebuilding one. I've you know helped. I've made Norse A-frame tents. I've pretty much done it all, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. So when I'm writing, I can put people into the world with things they normally wouldn't know.
Okay.
All the boards, the deck of a Viking ship was removable because that they had all their gear stored underneath it. You don't know that until you've actually been on a Viking ship.
Nice. No, I wouldn't have not have known that, but that is very interesting. Um, so when I was doing some research on you, I found that you made a very interesting point. Would you mind if I quote you?
Go ahead.
Okay. Everyone has a specific writing style, but I think that we're too close to it. Really, to really examine it. Would you care to elaborate to our listeners on what you meant by that?
Well, first, I'm not sure where you got that from, but I have a lot of blogs and stuff on my site, probably one of those. Everybody has a specific writing style as they're trying to get information across, but how they choose to get that information across varies widely. You know, if you give the same story idea to 50 people and have them go write a story based upon it, you're going to get 50 totally different stories back. You know, some people, I try for very deep, very intense character creation. That's my big thing. Other people want to create the world, like the Harry Potter world, or you know, some people are right into the action, and other people are trying to describe the scene, the what the room looks like, what's on the mantle, what books are on the bookshelf, and each person can tell a great story, but they always tell it in their way. And I think that tells you a lot about the writer.
Okay. So, if you were asked what is your writing style, do you think at this time, and by the way, the article was from 2018, if that helps you. You actually elaborated a little bit more, but I just took a piece of it because I wanted to have you reiterate that into the interview. But do you think after all this time, since it's 2021, do you think your time from that interview in 2018 is different now? Do you think you could articulate more about where you believe your writing style is?
Well, I think that it's hard to judge your own writing style because you're too close to it. But I would hope that everybody is self-aware enough to know that there are unique qualities of their own writing style and what it is.
Right. Okay, so you're pretty much on the same page as you were in 2018, that you think we're too close to it to recognize what our own style really is. I can understand that. Okay,
You
so
can say
go ahead.
everybody has an opinion and everybody's right.
Yeah.
If somebody else has the opinion that you use way too much dialogue and somebody says you don't use enough, for them, they're right.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I think one important thing is, and this is just my own. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I think, but my own important thing is for me as a writer, is write for yourself first, and then if it intrigues others to read, then more the success to you.
I would agree with that. One of the tricks that I do, sometimes it goes into the book, sometimes it doesn't. But I will sit down and write an argument for my main characters between them because nothing really differentiates characters as writing an argument. I want to get them to have a unique personality before I start to write, enough that if you put two of the characters into the same scene with the same thing happening to both of them, they're both going to react in different ways.
Right.
Once you've done that, your characters pretty much usually take over my story. I have no idea how my stories are going to end.
I'm a lot like that too. I don't write the ending of my stories. I find it intriguing for me to do it as right. So that we have in common. But since we're talking about your characters, I have a question here for you. One thing I found very interesting about you was that you said from this interview in 2018, you said that all your characters originated from yourself. Would you care to tell us more how that came to be?
Oh, my past isn't really a typical happy childhood situation.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the first Ritalin kids. They put me on massive doses of amphetamines when I was 6 years old. And that would, doses that would be illegal today. Doctors would go to jail for that. And we were basically in a medical experiment that failed. They tried it out on thousands of us kids. And so I grew up from 6 to 16, a burned out speed freak. And by the time I really started grasping the world around me, I was already more older, if not more mature. And I think I was able to see things a little from a different point of view, at least. And you kind of learn things about yourself when you're like, well, why was I this person? Because, you know, I had hallucinations, all kinds of stuff while I was growing up. You know, I have memories that I've been told by my family never happened. So don't know. But I try to think about things that happened to me, and most of my characters have at least one of those things which have happened to me in them, because that's where the emotion comes from.
Right.
That's where the realism comes from. And if they're not real to you, they're never going to be real to your readers.
I can understand that. I think so from what I'm getting from what you're saying, you've taken some difficult moments in your life and you've honed them in a way to create some very well-rounded and probably a little dramatic as far as their issues that they went through into your characters, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. Okay, so since we're writing on the writing and coming from the characters, I believe that I read that you wrote software for over 20 years. Am I correct?
Well, my degree's in computer programming, and I was a computer programmer, and then I got a job I got to switch over to the technical writing group, and I got to practice writing and get paid really well for it every day. So
nice. So how would you say writing in that type of field compares to now writing as an author?
Oh, writing in technical writing is boring.
Okay.
It's not boring, it's done right, and they pay you to write it their way. So remember, when a company hires a technical writer to write their instructions for how to use something, they want to not get sued. So your instructions are hey, if you followed this, this wouldn't have happened, so you can't sue us.
Right.
You're writing to teach other people how to use it. You're writing to protect the company from if you use it wrong.
Got you. But I'm sure that writing in the sense for the software probably helped you more finesse it as in grammatical, so that's probably not a big issue for you now writing fiction, yes?
That is very true. I got to practice writing every day, but when I started out and decided I wanted to write my first book, I literally carried around a copy of Strunk and White's The Elements of Style in my back pocket for months. And I read it and reread it and reread it till I had it virtually memorized. And that was all it took. So I mostly write my first drafts in Notepad because I don't want people telling me my grammar's wrong or my spelling's wrong or anything like that. That's editing. I'll get to that after the whole thing is when I get to the end, then I'll worry about that stuff.
Right. I can understand that. So we've only got a couple more minutes, but for one of my final questions here, I'd like to ask you to tell us something monumental about your life that we may not know from you as an author. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
My girlfriend and I have been doing ballroom dancing for 19 years straight.
Oh, wow.
And we go dancing whenever we can. In fact, several times over the last 2 years, we've actually, most of the dances have been shut down. We've rented a hall and just, everybody divided up the cost between us and had like 4 or 5 couples come and do a dance. and just so that we could get back into dancing because it's just so much fun.
Oh,
It's also how we stay in shape and everything.
that's awesome. Did you take training for it or?
So I did.
Oh,
Years.
and how long did
And
that take for you?
well, it's not a question of how long it takes because you get to you learn the basics and you learn the advanced part, then you start building yourself up as a dancer because you don't just go in and do the basic steps and you become a great dancer. You have to embellish upon them. So
Right.
you it's just something that comes with time, and it will come with time. I love people in my dance community, but you don't have to be a rocket science to learn left from right. So it's not that.
You obviously have never seen me dance. So,
Most for really good dancing is being able to cover it up when you make a mistake. Oh, I meant to do that. See how good it is?
I get you.
So once you're at that point, and as long as you end with a big flourish, you're fine. All people remember is your last move anyway.
Okay, our beeper went off, but I am curious. Have you, when you talk about ballroom dancing, have you ever competed?
No, we've decided that we don't want to do the competitions.
Ah,
We're obviously 19 years. We've done demos. We've done at her high school reunion. We went there and did a performance for them, and it wasn't like we practiced or anything for it. It's what we do every night. So
well, that's awesome. I want to thank you so much, Jay, for being on my program. It was really a delight. I want to thank our listeners once again. I appreciate you guys so much for coming in every night and listening and checking out the feeds on the other platforms. I'm getting tongue tied talking, but I had such a joy doing this. Thank you again, Jay, for being on our program tonight.
if anybody would like to see my books, they're on my website at jpalmerbooks.com.
Wonderful. I will make sure I add that to your bio. Everyone have a great night. It was wonderful being able to be with you. Bye bye for now.